Welcome back to Addiction, Depression, Recovery. So, you have a loved one who has a problem. Maybe it's your husband or wife, or a parent or a friend, or a sibling, or a child. Addiction can affect anyone after all, and I don't just mean that about the person with the addiction. The people around an addict are affected too, and that's who I'd like to talk to today. When someone you care about struggles with an addiction, a lot of bad things start to happen. Their behavior can change drastically. They start to treat you differently, withdraw from you emotionally. It's scary and it's confusing. And what are you supposed to do? Where did the person you love go? What did you do wrong? Can you protect them somehow? Save them? It can feel hopeless. You can feel helpless. And it's easy to get overwhelmed and just deny that the whole thing is a problem rather than deal with it. Or to run away. Because you don't know how to feel, let alone what to do. Always remember that their addiction is not your fault. You can, however, help them to get better. So, what should you do? Well, hopefully that's where I come in. Although there are no easy answers when it comes to addiction recovery, I think I can give you some facts and advice that should help light the path ahead. First and foremost, it is okay to be angry, but be angry at the addiction, not the addict. A common response to addiction is anger. It's understandable, but remember where your anger needs to be directed. Anger will not help you, and it will not help the addict. In fact, anger will worsen the problem for everyone. When I was getting sober, I had a lot of guilt, shame, and self-loathing buried inside me. I felt inferior to everyone around me, like I had a disease or I was cursed. I walked in a shadow I'd created in my own mind. And whenever I experienced anger or judgment, I felt that those negative thoughts I'd had about myself were being validated. I would think, yep, that's right, I am garbage. You should be angry at me. I am not good. And the shadow I walked in would get a little bigger. You don't want to do that to someone you love. You want to build them up, not break them down. You want to silence those negative thoughts by supporting them and making sure they know that they are loved, that you are there for them. Reinforcing a negative self-image only makes them more likely to keep using, which will only make their self-image worse. And that cycle will continue all the way to the bottom. In my research, I came across an article I really enjoyed. It's called, "Does It Help to Get Angry at Someone with an Addiction?" And it was written by Laurel Dalrymple for NPR News in 2014. I'd like to read you a few quotes from that article now. A struggle isn't just winning. It's winning and losing. There are strong moments and weak moments, and sometimes the weak moments feel so insurmountable that they eclipse every triumph. What is the point of anger? What has it ever solved? Has it stopped addicts from using? Has it helped you feel better? Anger is meant to be used short term, not as a state of mind. Anger will eat you alive, just as any other addiction will. That is why healing does not lie in anger. It lies in empathy and love. Well said. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's start back at the beginning. We need to talk briefly about denial, codependency, and enabling. Denial is simple. It is denying that there is a problem, choosing to ignore it, or just being unable to see it. Enabling is a little trickier. The most obvious example is getting alcohol for someone with a drinking problem, but it can also be any action that protects them from the consequences of their behavior, like making excuses for them at social engagements when they're at home sleeping off a hangover, or paying off someone's drug debt. Codependency is the most complicated of these three issues. If you look up the definition of codependency, you will get excessive emotional or psychological reliance on a partner, typically one who requires support on account of an illness or addiction. But that doesn't really cover what people in codependent relationships go through. They can have trouble saying no to people and fail to function properly without their partner. They can forget about their own happiness completely, focusing solely on the needs of the addict. The addict's partner can experience panic attacks due to worry or fits of rage due to the addict's continued use. It's a complex issue and one that deserves its own video to explain properly. I mention these things because if you understand the concepts, you can be aware of behavior that could be enabling or codependency or denial. Honesty is key in all of this, and that includes honesty with yourself about your own behavior as well as that of the addict. So, as I said, you have a loved one who has a problem. You now know where to direct your anger and some behaviors to watch out for. And now, it's time to answer the real question. What do you do? Well, first things first, you fix the first thing that breaks when an addiction gets in the way of any relationship, and that is communication. Talking to an addict can be hard. Talking to a loved one when you're addicted can be hard. When communication is that difficult for both people, it usually breaks down. Along with communication goes trust. And when there's no trust and no communication between two people, they really don't have a relationship anymore. And if you don't have a relationship with someone, you aren't in a position to help and support them through their recovery. A website I find myself returning to a lot in my research is verywellmind.com. And they have some great tips I'll share with you now about reestablishing trust. First off, avoid the following trust destroyers: nagging, criticizing, or lecturing the addict; yelling, name-calling, and exaggerating, even if you are angry or stressed; and engaging in addictive behaviors yourself, even in moderation, which they could view as hypocritical. You should also consider these thoughts. Many people use as a way to control stress. If the atmosphere between the two of you is stressful, they will want to use more, not less. Building trust is a two-way process. Trust is not established by putting up with bad behavior. This website has a lot of other great information if you'd like to learn more. So, the goal is to earn back each other's trust and reopen the lines of communication so you can work together against the real enemy, the addiction. So let's be specific about how to do that. Always act with compassion and kindness in your dealings with an addict. An addict expects everyone to look down on them, belittle them, judge them. Don't offer this negative reinforcement. Extend a helping hand and speak to them with empathy and love. You want them to know that although you don't accept their behavior, you do accept them. That small distinction can make a world of difference. Try to listen more than you talk. You'll be surprised how much an addict might have to say once you can get them talking, especially if no one has given them a chance to speak for a long time. Remember that addiction happens for a reason. Try to understand their perspective and the journey that brought them to this point. It's important to be consistent with an addict as well. Don't confuse them with inconsistencies in your actions or your message. Don't drink around them if they have a drinking problem. Be predictable in your support and clear about what is and is not acceptable. Have clearly defined boundaries and hold the addict responsible if they cross the lines you have established. If you say you won't tolerate them drinking and driving, don't overlook it if they drive home drunk again. An addict will not change if there are no consequences for their actions. And finally, be vocal about your support, your concern, and your unconditional love. Tell them you care about them no matter how bad their addiction gets. Tell them you will support them in changing. You'll go to counseling by their side. Drive them to support meetings. Tell them you will quit with them. Support positive change in their life and help them through the tough times. I've read that the enemy of addiction is connection, that people who have strong connections to other people don't stay down long. So connect with the person you love. Give them something to hold on to while they pull themselves out of their addiction. Once again, I'd like to remind you, it is perfectly fine to be angry, but love is what the addict needs. So save your anger for the addiction. Connect with them. Be someone they can talk to. No one wants to be an addict, but it's not that simple. I'll quote that NPR article again and say that addiction is no ordinary demon, and recovery is no ordinary road. You'll likely deal with denial and resistance to change, fear, anger, stress, and worry on your part as well as that of the addict. Which leads me to the final topic of this video. You. This whole video ended up being about the addict and not you. How did that happen? Don't forget about you. You are a person too, remember? You have a right to be happy. You have a right to be angry too, or worried. You have a right to feel however you damn well want to feel. You are your own unique person, separate from them, and don't forget that. Remember to take care of yourself during this time. You can still keep your personal goals in view. In fact, seeing you take care of yourself and even improve yourself can inspire the addict, because when they see someone else achieve positive change, it gives them hope that they can do the same. If the stress of living with an addict becomes too much, get professional help for yourself, separate from the addict. And if too many lines have been crossed, you have a right to protect yourself and your loved ones, and to be happy. If you do have to remove yourself from someone's life, doing so in a safe place, such as in counseling, can be a good idea. And always remember that if someone is a danger to themselves or others, you should contact professionals immediately to ensure their safety. Be there for them, but don't forget to be there for yourself too. Because you can support someone who wants to change themselves, but always remember that ultimately, the only person you can change is you. Thank you for watching. I hope this helped. I know it helped me. This has been Addiction, Depression, Recovery, and remember, we do heal.